Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive into another mystery? Today, we're going deep on something that's fascinated people for decades. Unidentified aerial phenomena, or,
Yeah.
as most people know them, UFOs.
And what's really got people talking lately is that we're moving past those blurry photos and videos, right? It's
Yeah.
like we're entering a time where it's officially acknowledged and we're hearing these detailed stories from people you wouldn't doubt, you know?
It really feels like something big is being revealed. And a lot of it goes back to one event in particular, the USS Nimitz incident back in 2004. It kind of kicked things into high gear for UAPs.
Oh, for sure. That one got everyone's attention, and for good reason.
So picture this. It's 2004, and you're with the USS Nimitz Carrier Strike Group, just doing some routine exercises off the coast of San Diego. Suddenly, the USS Princeton picks up multiple unidentified objects on their radar. And get this, these things were plummeting from 80,000 feet down to sea level in less than a second.
I mean, can you imagine seeing that on the radar? And it wasn't just a quick blip or anything. It was something moving crazy fast. To be able to move like that, make those turns without causing a sonic boom, without any visible engines or anything, it suggests technology beyond anything we even understand right now.
It's wild, right? So they scrambled two FA-18 Super Hornets, piloted by Commander David Fravor and his wingman, to go see what's up. And that's when things get even more interesting. They come across this whitish, kind of oblong object just hovering over the water. They start calling it the Tic Tac because of its shape.
But this wasn't just some random object. As Commander Fravor got closer, it's like this Tic Tac mirrored his movements, you know? As if it knew he was there. Then, just as fast as it appeared, it took off at an insane speed, gone, vanished over the horizon.
Just poof, disappeared. It's like something out of a movie, but this wasn't just some isolated incident.
No, not at all. And that's the thing, right? It being one of many, that's what makes it so important. You have all these military folks all over the world describing really similar encounters.
It's true. For years, though, these stories were kind of brushed aside, hidden away. But that's changing, right?
Definitely changing. We're seeing a big shift. You know, in 2021, the U.S. Office of the Director of National Intelligence, they put out this huge report that really shook things up.
It was a big deal for sure.
It really was. They looked at 144 UAP sightings from 2004 to 2021. And guess what? Only one, just one, could be explained. So you have 143 unexplained encounters. And they're not just floating lights either. The report talks about objects doing things we don't understand, like crazy fast acceleration, changing direction in an instant, even moving between air and water like it was nothing.
And this isn't some grainy footage from someone's backyard.
Like,
This is coming from trained military personnel using high-tech equipment. They're documenting all of this.
exactly. Take the gimbal video from 2015, for example. It was captured by Navy pilots, and you see this disc-shaped thing just rotating in the air, totally unbothered by strong winds. The footage is strange enough on its own, but when you hear the pilots talking, you can hear the shock in their voices, like they can't believe it. One of them even says, "Look at that thing, it's rotating." I know, right? It's like science fiction just became reality.
Makes you wonder, with all these credible people saying they've seen this stuff, all these events with no explanation, what are we really looking at here? What could even explain something like that?
That's the big question, isn't it? And the possibilities, they run the gamut. I mean, you've got everything from like super advanced tech from another country all the way to, well, something truly out there.
Let's start with something a bit more, down to earth for now. What about the idea that these UAPs, maybe they're just really advanced drones or some kind of aircraft from another country?
It makes sense to think about that, and we definitely have to consider it. But even the Pentagon, they've said they're not so sure about that theory. And that's where it gets really interesting. These things these UAPs are doing, like that Tic Tac we were talking about, it's a level of tech, of sophistication that just seems impossible, even for the most advanced militaries out there.
So if it's not another country, what about, well, a little closer to home? Could it be those black projects everyone's always talking about? Those top secret government programs developing experimental aircraft?
Governments and their secrets, right. It's definitely happened before, but it's a big jump from a secret project to using something this advanced, especially against your own pilots, without them knowing, seemingly. Would they really risk hurting their own people like that? It seems a bit far-fetched, even for a government that likes to keep things under wraps.
Yeah, I guess it makes you think twice about those need-to-know projects.
Mhm.
But that still leaves one pretty big theory out there.
The big one, right? The extraterrestrial hypothesis, the one that really gets people's imaginations going.
I mean, how can you not, right? You hear these stories, see these videos. It's hard not to at least consider it.
Of course, and I think it's important to stay open-minded about these things. But we also have to remember that extraordinary claims, they need extraordinary evidence. As wild as these UAP things are, we still need more than just questions. We need solid proof before we start assuming it's aliens.
Right, we need to balance that excitement with a bit of healthy skepticism. Speaking of different perspectives, we should talk about Dr. Sarah Johnson. She's an astrophysicist, and she used to consult for the government. She's been pretty vocal about needing some serious scientific study of UAPs.
She's a really important voice in this whole discussion, and she represents a growing number of scientists who are saying, hey, we need to be more open about this, more serious about studying it.
And what I find interesting about her is she doesn't jump to conclusions. She acknowledges how strange this all is, this big mystery. But she keeps saying, we need solid evidence.
Yeah.
We actually have a clip of her from a recent interview where she talks about this. Voice actor, calm, measured tone. While there's no concrete evidence pointing to extraterrestrials, the behaviors exhibited by these UAPs challenge our very understanding of physics. It's a profound mystery that demands serious scientific inquiry, not ridicule or dismissal. A profound mystery that demands serious inquiry. I love that. It's like she's saying, hey, something big is happening here and we need to figure out what it is.
It's refreshing, honestly. For so long, there's been this stigma about UAPs. People were afraid to talk about it, worried they'd be laughed at, called crazy. But that's changing, and it's about time.
It does feel like a turning point.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that change goes back to 2022 when, for the first time in over 50 years, Congress actually held a public hearing about UAPs.
Huge moment. It showed that the government was starting to take this seriously. They even said it could be a national security issue, and that we need more transparency, more cooperation between different government agencies.
And that openness is so important, not just to figure out what these UAPs are, but also for the people who have actually encountered them. We can't forget about that human side of things.
Absolutely. Imagine seeing something so out there, so beyond anything you can explain. For years, pilots, people in the military, other witnesses, they were told to keep quiet, to not talk about what they saw. They were afraid of ruining their careers, of people not believing them.
It's kind of heartbreaking, you know?
Yeah.
These people see something truly amazing, and then they're basically told to stay silent.
Thankfully, that's changing, slowly but surely. With the government being more open and people talking more openly, these witnesses, they're finally being heard, being taken seriously.
Makes you wonder how many other stories are out there just waiting to be told now that people aren't so afraid to talk about it. It feels like we're on the edge of something big here, wouldn't you say?
No doubt. It's a really exciting time to be following this. It really makes you think, are we about to find out we're not alone? Or is there some other explanation, something maybe even more mind-blowing than we can imagine, right here on Earth?
It's almost like too much to think about, you know?
Yeah.
We grow up with that idea that maybe we aren't alone in the universe, but it always seems so far off. And then with all this UAP stuff, it's like, what if it's actually real?
Yeah.
Like right now.
It really makes you see things differently, doesn't it? I think deep down, people have always wanted to know where we fit in all the vastness of space. And now, maybe, just maybe, those answers are coming closer.
And even if, let's say, even if all these UAPs end up being something from Earth.
Which we have to admit is a possibility, of course.
Yeah, of course. But even then, we're still talking about tech so far beyond what we know, right? It would be like rewriting the books on what's possible.
Absolutely. Think about it. What if these UAPs really are just super advanced drones or some kind of aircraft made right here? It would mean someone, somewhere, has made these huge leaps in technology, stuff that makes what we have now look like, I don't know, toys from the Stone Age almost.
Honestly, that's almost scarier than aliens in a way.
Isn't it? Really makes you rethink things, doesn't it? Makes you realize just how much we don't know, how much is still out there, even on our own planet.
It's both, like exciting and a bit creepy, all at once.
Exactly. And that's the thing about the unknown, isn't it? It forces us to admit what we don't know, to question what we think is real.
So where do we go from here? What's next in figuring out this whole UAP thing?
We keep doing what we're doing, keep asking those questions, demanding answers, not just accepting what we're told. Keep an open mind, but don't believe everything you hear either.
It's almost like we're standing on the shore, looking out at this massive, unexplored ocean.
And just like any good explorer, we got to be careful, but curious, and be ready for whatever we might find.
Because it's out there, whatever it is. And finding out, well, that could change everything. So as we wrap things up here, I'll leave you with this. Don't stop looking up. Don't be afraid to ask those big questions. And never lose that sense of wonder. Who knows? The answers might be closer than we think.